The international program is a program about 50 years ago that the cooperatives, through our national association, NRECA, started to go into underdeveloped countries or developing countries who needed central station power.
President John Kennedy challenged our National Association to help export the cooperative model to other parts of the world to see if we could be successful in helping them do the same things we had done in the rural area insofar as central station power.
He talked to us at that time about the fact that Puerto Barrios, had this system, and many people in the city were on the system, but there were a number of villages around the city that they don't have electricity.
I think they have maybe 25,000 right now that have power in the city, but there's over 100,000 in the surrounding area as we build and help develop.
Without electricity, life is hard.
One of the chores that we saw the young boys and young girls doing each day was going out and cutting and gathering firewood so they would have something to cook their meals with.
They have to wash all their clothes in the streams. They cook over open flame.
Carrying water from the water source to the home, it's a daily task.
No TVs, no phones. They have cell phones, but there's no landlines or anything like that.
They did not have any refrigeration on site, so their food spoiled. If they had a large quantity of food, if they couldn't consume it before it spoiled, it just wasted.
It's really kind of twofold, when you think about getting ready for a project, getting the people ready and then getting the materials.
We send crews down, we pay them for a 40-hour week. A lot of times they're going to work more than 40 hours.
It really just takes one person to go down there, one lineman to go down there and come back, and then they're the ones that sell the story. You get someone to go the first time and then they come back and it's like wildfire. The logistical side of that is a little more challenging. Trying to coordinate with the international program, coordinating with all of our cooperatives here in the state, putting the plea out, we need materials. Well, what do you need? And then getting that list out.
Materials are very short down there. They don't have the supplies of line material, wire transformers, etc. And we have to do a lot of planning and ship ahead of time so that they have received them and have them in stock so we have something to work with when we get there.
The wire we're sending, for example, we don't use a lot of number 2 now, so we got a lot of number 2 coming down, but that's exactly what they need to attach to the main facilities in town and build out. As you take wire down that is still good wire, it's just not large enough for what you need. You take that wire down, you repurpose that wire and send it and let them use it, because it's just something we don't need.
From there, we have to coordinate with our contacts in Guatemala through the international program that they will accept the containers and pay the tariffs on them. And then once they get the materials, then you get it to the job site.
This first project that we worked on was to build about 7 miles of single-phase line from the outskirts of Puerto Barrios up into the tropical rainforest mountains over to 3 villages.
The spans of wire that we do here, 250 to 300 feet. The spans of wire down there were, 1,500 to 2,000 feet. It'd go from mountaintop to mountaintop, and it was pretty rugged.
The hills was ungodly. I mean, we've never seen nothing like those before. Going straight down and then going straight back up, and you put in wire, I mean, it wears you out totally.
It was work. It was. They had crews down there that were cutting the right-of-way for us before we got there. so we really didn't have to deal with any vegetation other than crawling through the trees that they had already cut down.
We frame poles and pull wire, set anchors.
The roads are not what we're accustomed to, but they're not bad.
It was in the 90s every day, but the humidity wasn't as bad as it is here. I think we had rain for like one day during the lunch break, but every night it rained, but during the day it was just pretty.
Up on the mountain, it was beautiful. It wasn't that hot.
To be up that high and pulling a 1,500-foot span, something we're not used to, and just having to go from pole to pole, I mean, it was pretty tough, but it was real beautiful.
The language barrier is probably one of the greatest feats to try to overcome. You can do a lot by just hand signals and the way that you move.
We had 2 good interpreters, and they would come around to each person to help us, or we would go to them if we had a question.
If we didn't have the 2 interpreters, we would have been totally lost.
Over time, they'll try to teach you some of the language to help you try to communicate the basic stuff.
They were excellent and did anything we needed them to do. They stayed with us the entire time, so we had them right by our sides.
All 3 villages supplied people to work.
Some of them had to walk 3 and 4 miles just to start and would be there when we started after walking, and in the evening had to walk that home, and were there every day helping, doing whatever needed to be done.
They're so eager to help. They would meet us out on the job at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they would stay with us till we left.
From 4 years old to 40 years old, they would be there working all day.
The people there, they have a harder work ethic than anybody I've ever seen in my life.
Cutting trees, pulling wire, setting poles, digging anchors.
With a machete, with a slingshot, you name it, they was just ready to go every morning.
They had machetes and power saws, and they would get some of the locals that lived in the villages, and they would show them where they wanted to set poles and run the lines, and they would point them in the direction and turn them loose, and they would go to cutting. I'm 47 years old, and I've had power all my life. I have no comprehension what it's like not to have power. And to see the look on their faces just when you turn on a simple incandescent light bulb, it's just amazing to see the absolute joy that they have for something so simple that we take for granted every day.
When you flip the switch and everybody starts hollering and clapping, it's real rewarding.
First thing is just a light, but as time goes on, I know that they'll see other possibilities to use that electricity to help bring in more income to their village, and then they can add more and more, and that's when I think they really see the effects of the electricity brought to their community.
They were telling about a lady who has already developed a small store in her house, and now she's employed folks and they're getting things done because she now can refrigerate milk or eggs or whatever she needs to do and supply the community instead of having to go all the way back that 7-mile trek to go back to the town to buy what they need to take it back. It's now right there in their village.
One of the villagers actually called me about a month ago, and he said, I just wanted you to know that since we've gotten electricity in the village of Tamarindal, that the village now has a chicken farm that they'd never been able to have before.
Why would you not take the expertise and experience you have and help develop the opportunities for others?
It's just rewarding. I mean, it makes you humble, appreciative, and understand that you take for granted your everyday routine is just something that these people have never had and may never have in their lifetime.
You're going to help somebody who hasn't had a luxury that you've always been afforded.
If you leave a child and let folks have nothing, it's the bed for crime, it's the bed for terrorists. We just have the opportunity to help develop and give them something better and the opportunity to grow their communities.
For me, it was just an opportunity to get out away from your ordinary life, your everyday activities, and see something different, and meet new people, and go new places.
From a global standpoint, you increase the market of the world, because now these folks can now participate more in the market and not just wait for things to come to them, but actually reach out.
We can't change the minds of every person in Guatemala or every person in any other country. But I'll guarantee you the residents of those 3 villages that we help get power to will always remember Alabama as a friend of theirs, and I think they will remember the United States as a friend of theirs. I think every lineman that went down there and worked, their lives were changed for the good.
I'd go back today if they let me.
Just going down there to see the smiles and just seeing the people and just getting along with the people, I mean, it was well worth it. It was well worth it. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
It makes you more appreciative of the stuff that we have that we normally take for granted.
You know, those people down there do everything by hand. We've given them some hand tools and some basic things to do the work with, but it takes you back in time to what the first lineman here probably had to deal with as far as setting the poles and stringing wire. And it just makes you more appreciative of what you do have here.
I'd recommend it to anybody.
Linemen seeing lights come on in a whole village, which is what their predecessor linemen saw. We'll never get to see that here again, but we still have that opportunity.
When I heard that 60 years ago you didn't have electricity, this sounds like the United States. No, this is the greatest country in the world. And they say that they don't have electricity for 60 years in some rural areas.
The rural areas.
We think that this is so impossible.